am super excited to introduce my guest. He is a writer, director, producer, painter, musician, a truly gifted artist in so many ways. He's given us such classic movies like Wise Guys with Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo, Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, The Whole 10 Yards, Middlemen, Local Color, just to name a few. His new film that he wrote and directed, The Comeback Trail, stars Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, Emile Hirsch. I want to welcome the extremely talented George Gallo to the podcast. Welcome to the show.
An honor to be here. Thank you.
You know, first off, I got to express my gratitude because, you know, I reached out to you kind of out of the blue. I mean, listen, we both have the same last name, and I get stuff that pops up and I see Gallo, you know, I see that what you're up to and you popped up, I think it was with The Whole 10 Yards. And I was like, you know, I would love to have George Gallo on the podcast. And, you know, I think I reached out like through social media or something, but I never got a response. And I was like, how am I going to reach George? And then
I apologize for that. I'm not the greatest social media guy, you know?
No apology necessary. But then the universe works in mysterious ways. I'm literally cleaning out my desk and all of a sudden a piece of paper falls out and it says George Gallo. And I look at this piece of paper and I go, get the fuck. And I have this piece of paper that, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, you gave me your phone number. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if this number is any good, you know? So I literally like call the number and you answer the phone. And I go, George Gallo, this is Billy Gallo. And we start talking, we're on the phone for 45 minutes. And you were so generous with your time. And I said, I would love to have you on my podcast. And you said, done. And I was like, you know, that's a rarity in this business. You know, you're a stand-up guy, you know, and you're real. And I love that about you.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Listen, you know, I'm trying to think, you know, I'm going back through my brain and I was thinking, you know, how did we meet? Do you remember how we met?
Well, we had some mutual friends. I remember you were doing a TV show, right? At Universal. Weren't you or
Yeah, well, I had a few shows. You know, I was doing Who's the Boss with Tony Danza, but that wasn't.
That's what it was. It was you were doing Who's the Boss, but you were somebody pointed you out to me a couple of times and they said, hey, you any relation to him? I said, no, we just have the same last name. But the last time I saw you, which was 114 years ago, I was driving into the entrance of Universal. It was in the afternoon. It's very funny. There's certain things like I can't remember what happened 10 minutes ago, but this I remember very, very clearly. And I was driving in and it was late in the day. The sun was kind of going down like this orangey light. You know, that's the painter coming out at me. And you were walking on the right side of the car. And I rolled down the window and I said, hey, you're Billy Gallo, right? And you went, yeah. And I said, you know, you and me got the same last name. And you went, what's that? And I always thought that was hysterical. You know, I remember that really, really clearly. And, but you always seemed very nice and very open and just unfull of shit, you know, which I always appreciate. And it always seems so bizarre to me that in a town of artists, supposed artists, a lot of times that people are so guarded. And, you know, the whole point of being an artist is to not be guarded, you know, and you have to be free to fail and free to make mistakes and free to screw up and free to trip and fall down. And it's the whole process of being an artist, you know. And but you know, you get a little gun shy in this town because people you know, they're always gunning for you sometimes, you know. So it's, you know, you learn to save that, you know, or protect that in some way, and only you know, and maybe be vulnerable with people you could trust, you know.
You know, I've never, you know, been in this business, and I came out to Hollywood at 18 with $200 in my pocket, a one-way ticket straight out of Brooklyn. Didn't know a soul out here. And, you know, I've been blessed, and I had this dream and I made the dream a reality. And along the way, I've met and I've worked with a lot of actors, and, you know, I've gotten numbers but I've never been one kind of like schmoozy kind of guy.
Yeah, me neither.
I kiss ass, like, I mean, I have numbers that are people that I never called because I'm not going to just like, call you because I'm looking for something. That's not just, that's not who I am, you know? So listen, I created this podcast, one, to inspire young artists to follow their dreams. If you have a dream, listen, if a kid like me can come out to Hollywood and not know anybody and make the dream a reality, if a kid like you can come out to Hollywood and become this amazing director, writer, in this business. I mean, A-list, working with the best of the best. You are the best. I mean, the comeback trail. I mean, it's amazing how you made that dream a reality. So I want to maybe go back to the beginning. When did you know you wanted to be in showbiz?
It's funny. I never. I almost feel in some ways that I was guided at times. I never, it wasn't like, like I was highly focused in one way, in that I really wanted to make movies. But what's odd is I never, maybe by looking at my IMDb page, you'd say, yes, he's definitely accurate. I never saw it as a career. I saw it as just a journey that I wanted to make movies. And like, there are people that are very career oriented, they're very career minded, they make all these moves based on whatever. I never thought of it that way. I just always wanted to make films. And how do you get there? Well, I guess you got to go to Los Angeles. I mean, I sold a few scripts when I was in New York, but I'd sort of I'd sort of burned through New York because there wasn't that many production companies and people hiring. And then I moved out to LA, and I had, like you said, you had 200. I was much wealthier than you. I had $800 in my pocket, and I didn't know anybody. And I just landed here, and I says, okay, I'm here. And then I just started. I got very lucky though early on. I must admit, I got very, very lucky in that I landed a gig pretty quickly, and that got me an apartment, and I paid my rent, and then I was writing, and then I handed the script in, and then it didn't look like it was going to happen, but then it got made. And then suddenly I had a real check. Well, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I was afraid to cash the check because it's really crazy. I walked around with it in my wallet for about a week. And a friend of mine said, "What's that check?" It was a check for $100,000 from MGM. And it was like, I said, yeah, I was like, I don't know. I'm like nervous this thing won't clear. And he goes, "It's from MGM. It'll clear."
Was this for Wise Guys?
Yeah, for Wise Guys. Yeah. And that was the beginning, that was 1980, 1980. I wrote it in 80. I was still living in New York when I wrote it. I wrote it in 1983, and then I came out to LA in 83, and then I just started knocking on doors with scripts under my arms. I mean, I really was like the Fuller Brush man. I was just going. Back then, it was easier to get on studio lots. You could just pull up to the gate and sort of bullshit your way in. And now they pat you down, they put mirrors under the cars. But then it was a lot different. So I just wandered around a lot. And yeah, and then I met, there was a little bungalow there where I ended up getting an office, which is so crazy. But and there was Aaron Russo and Erwin Russo. They were two producers, and Aaron passed away some years back. But I just introduced myself, and they were a couple of New York guys. I gave them my script. They said, "Who represents you?" I said, "Nobody." So they weren't supposed to read the script. It's not supposed to, but I guess they got a kick out of me. Because they were hustlers just like I was at one time. And, I was sort of an older version of them, and they read it, and they called me and they said, "We want to option this."
Okay, well, let's see. I need to rewind. First off, how many scripts did you write before writing Wise Guys, or how did you get into writing, or did you study the craft of writing? How did you
Again, it's all very sort of haphazard. I was both haphazard and focused at the same time. It was like I wrote my first. I used to write a lot when I was already in high school. I was writing my own version of screenplays. I was making movies with my buddies when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. I bought a Super 8 camera, a sound camera. It was a GAF 805. I remember that because Henry Fonda used GAF. And, I started making movies and with my buddies and blowing up model airplanes and, dressing up like soldiers. I mean, yeah, thought I was, Eric von Stroheim when I was 16 years old. And I was making these movies. But like I said, the idea of doing it for a living, I wanted to do it, but I didn't know what the mechanisms were to get there. But I wrote a script when I was 19 years old. I think I told you this when we first started. I wrote a script when I was 19 years old. It was a comedy. And I just wrote it, and I learned the structure or the craft from, it wasn't like today where you had all the stuff on the internet. There was no internet,
Sure.
I went to the Writers Guild and I read a couple of screenplays. They let me, I was always like, I was always forward in that I would knock on doors. I never had any problem getting tossed out of places, I was thrown out of many, but I read scripts at the Writers Guild. They let you read them like a library. They let you sit there and read scripts. And I read scripts. I can figure this out. It's just dialogue, and I was naive. It's just dialogue and stage direction. And then I was already a painter. I was already an art student, so I knew how to visualize stuff. So I would draw little pictures of how I saw it in my head. And then I wrote screenplays. But I wrote this one screenplay. That was the first one I wrote. And it was a comedy called Pros and Cons. And when I finished it, I thought it was pretty good. And I'm sure it had stuff in it that was good. I'm sure if I read it today, I would probably cringe. But, I started looking through the New York City phone book to see if I could find, like actors, and I always say this as if Al Pacino's home number was going to be in the book. But I was looking and looking and looking. And I came across this one phone number that said A.J. Ornitz, and that was Arthur J. Ornitz, the cinematographer. And I have like an almost, it's almost like autism. It's like I have this like incredible memory for things. Like I see a movie, I can memorize the dialogue. I've always been like a sponge, and I know film credits very well. And I knew Arthur's work right away. I was like, oh, Arthur shot Serpico. And he shot, the Anderson tapes and
Wow.
1,000 Clowns. He shot all these New York movies, Death Wish, So I called him up. I figured, what's the worst thing that happened? He'll hang up on me. So I called him up and I said, Mr. Ornitz, my name's George Gallo. I'm 19 years old. I wrote this screenplay, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, all right, send it to me. So I remember he lived on 23rd Street and 10th Avenue. I sent him the script. He called me back about a week later and he says, you're a good writer. I says, oh, thank you very much. He goes, you're 19? I said, yeah. And he goes, you're writing about middle-aged angst in this script, because it was about one guy that just turned 40 and he didn't know what to do with the rest of his life. And he goes, I want to meet you. So I met with him for lunch, and then he was one of those 3 martinis at lunch kind of guy. And he was brilliant cameraman,
Yeah.
And he said, you need a producer. And I was like, okay. And he goes, do you know who Marty Bregman is? And I says, yeah, he produced Serpico. And at the time they were doing Dog Day Afternoon. And he said, and eventually Scarface, all those big movies he did. So he said, I want you to meet Marty. So I went, okay. So then we got into a cab. We went over to Marty's office. Marty was like on 53rd in Lexington, something like that. And then we went up and met Marty. I'll never forget. He was eating lunch when we walked in. He's eating a sandwich, and Arthur says, I want you to meet this kid. This kid's got a good ear for dialogue and characters. And then Marty Bregman said, well, you must be good, because this old son of a bitch doesn't like anything. And he read the script, and he called me about 10 days later, and he goes, I want to option your screenplay. I was like, wow. Okay, great. What does that mean? He goes, I really didn't know shit. He said, okay, I give you some money, and then I own the screenplay for 18 months. Do you have an agent? I said, no. He goes, all right, well, then you need an agent. He says, go over to the William Morris agency. They're on 57th Street or 56th and blah, blah, blah. He says, there's a guy there. His name is Fred Milstein. He's going to represent you in the deal. And I went, okay. And I was like, shit, I got an agent. I want to sell a screenplay tomorrow. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was pinch me. It's a dream. I went up to meet the agent. The agent said, Marty called me. They want to option your screenplay. So anyway, what ends up happening, they fly me out to Universal because Marty's deal was with Universal. I now live, it's really funny, maybe like a driver, a 3-wood, and a 9-iron to Universal. And I often think, when I was a kid, and I was a scared kid at 19, that someone would say to me, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. You're going to own a house on that hill one day. The house wasn't even built yet. But anyway, so they optioned the screenplay. They gave me notes. They did rewrites, blah, blah, blah. At the end of a year, it came pretty close to happening. It never did happen. And that was my taste of being a screenwriter. Then I wrote several other screenplays that I couldn't give away. But the agent kept representing me. And then eventually the agent stopped representing me because I just was striking out. I started doing a lot of, jobs. I drove a truck in New York. I did a lot of, non-showbiz work, which in retrospect, I'm grateful for, because it toughened me up in a lot of ways. I think had success come back quickly, who knows, you go crazy or something. But by the time I was 28, I'd written 4 or 5 scripts. I couldn't give them away, like I said. And then I wrote Wise Guys. And then I came out to LA with it under my arm, and then I started knocking on doors. Those guys optioned it, and then the movie got made.
That's amazing. I love you had some big balls, just to call some guy out of the phone book. And then that led to meeting with Marty Bregman. I mean, just, it's taking that leap of faith, even if you are a scared 18-year-old, how did you overcome the fear?
Oh, I don't think you ever overcome the fear. I just think you say the only thing worse than doing it is not doing it. I mean, for instance, if I could jump ahead like 50 years or 40 years, the movie I just directed, Comeback Trail, which is supposed to come out in the spring, but we finished it 2 years ago. It was COVID screwed up the release. But and even though I know these people and they're friends, you wake up in the morning, like I'm supposed to direct the movie, and I'm supposed to be on the set 7 a.m. So of course I can't sleep. I sleep like 2 hours because I'm a nervous wreck. Then you wake up 4 in the morning and you're like, shit, I slept 2 hours. And then you're sitting on the edge of the bed and you say to yourself, who the fuck am I to think you could direct Robert De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman in the scene? What are you, off your fucking rocker? But you have to do it. It's like, it's almost like, if God puts you in that place, obviously you do it on your own, but if the good Lord helps you along, drops you in that spot, you're meant to be there, so you show up on the set and you do your job, but I don't think the fear ever leaves you. I think if you're not a little bit afraid, you're not doing it right.
I love that. Love that. Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Thanks.
So how, yeah, but listen, it's, that imposter syndrome, like, who am I to be directing, but like you said, you were put in that place because you were supposed to be put in that place. God works in mysterious ways. He put you there.
I believe in that. I do. And look, I wouldn't say I would not say that I'm like over the top, like religious person, but I do believe that there's some creator that has guided me through all these years. There's too many times I went left instead of right, like Midnight Run happens totally by accident. If you want to hear that story.
Absolutely.
Midnight Run. Okay. So I wrote Bad Boys before Midnight Run, except that Bad Boys got made afterwards, got made several years after, like 6 years, 7 years after I wrote Midnight Run. But I sold Bad Boys to Paramount, and which later it went to Sony. It went to Turnaround. But I'd met Marty Brest a couple of times, and I had a meeting with Simpson and Bruckheimer, and Martin Brest had just directed Beverly Hills Cop, which was this gigantic hit, right? So he could do pretty much whatever he wanted. And I was walking through the lot at Paramount, and I forgot my car keys. That's right, I forgot my car keys because I was walking out to the car, because I had a tendency sitting down and things would pinch my legs, so I would take my keys out, my wallet out, my glasses, all my shit, and I'd leave like this trail behind me, you know. So I went back to get my keys. I mean, this is like, again, this is like fate, you know, and I'm coming back now. Had I not left them behind, as I come back the second time to go to the car, I meet Marty's walking through the parking lot, you know, and he goes, "Hey, what are you working on?" Marty says this to me, and I says, you know, I'm working on this script about a bounty hunter and a mafia guy. He stole money from the mafia and blah, blah. I start telling him the story. He goes, "This sounds great." He goes, I said, "But I only got like 53 pages." And it's because back then I wrote everything on typewriters, you know, IBM Selectrics. And I wrote in legal pads a lot. I still write on legal pads. And Marty says, "Can I read it?" I said, "Yeah, but it's only 53 pages. He goes, "Let me read it." So I went to the car, I got the script, I gave it to him. He goes into his office and reads it. So like an hour goes by, and in the meantime, I'm talking to Waylon Green. I don't remember him. Waylon is a phenomenal screenwriter. He wrote The Wild Bunch, and he wrote Sorcerer, the Billy Friedkin movie, and his office was right next to Marty. So like, he was like one of these heroes of mine. So like, I'm talking to him about screenwriting, and you know, you spend 10 minutes with these guys. If you're really listening, you'll learn more with 10 minutes than you would reading a million books, you know, because they're not only really gifted, they've lived it, you know, they've been, you know, they've been bruised through the whole experience. So they're, let's say, properly seasoned, you know, in terms of cynicism. They still have the dream and the love, but, you know, they're not, you know, complete mental cases, you know. So, but anyway, so Marty comes out. Oh, no. I mean, this is an old one, but I want to tell you something that Waylon told me. So I said to Waylon, I said, "Yeah, you know, I got this scene. I said, I kind of borrowed it from." He goes, "Oh, what did you just say?" I said, "I kind of borrowed it from another one." He goes, No. Only amateurs borrow, professionals steal." So I said, "Okay."
Oh, I love that.
So Marty comes out of the office, and he finds me, and he goes, "This is great. How does it end?" I said, "I have no idea. I just know he lets it go in the end." And he goes, "Okay, I want it." So I did, okay. So we went to Paramount, and he said, "Look, I want to develop this script." And then he got me some dough, and then I wrote the second half of Midnight Run, and I handed it in, and then we worked on the next draft together, and it became the movie that it is, you know. So.
Which is a classic. I mean, it's one of my favorite. I mean, you know, so many of your films are my favorite films. I mean, I remember before coming out to Hollywood, you know, I was like 17 or right before it came out, and I remember sneaking into the movie theater. I'm sorry I didn't pay for it. the Alpine Theater in Brooklyn, which I used to go in, and I'd sneak in, and then I'd see every movie in there. You'd go from theater to theater to theater, you know.
No, I snuck into many movies myself, the R-rated ones. You couldn't get into.
Yeah. Well, I saw Mean Streets when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, holy shit, I want to be an actor.
Mean Streets kind of pushed me over the edge too. It's really funny. I don't mean to cut you off, but go ahead. You say what you're going to say.
No. Go ahead. Tell me.
Well, Mean Streets, you know, I always had, like I said, this affinity for movies, and I was making movies, and I was also painting a lot because I'm also an artist, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be, because I love painting big landscapes outside, and I was studying the Pennsylvania Impressionists, and I was a big Andrew Wyeth fan. You know, I love realism and impressionism and painting, and I was really into it, you know, and I couldn't figure out which way to go. But that's another kind of fate thing. My friend had tickets to go to some Italian American festival in New Rochelle, and they were going to screen this movie Mean Streets, and I'm like, I don't want to fucking go, you know. He goes, come on, we'll eat some pizza frites and we'll see a movie. What's wrong with that? I went, all right, you pain in the ass. So I went and I looked at that movie and I was like, holy shit, this movie's something else. You know, it's certainly, yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up, but it certainly spoke to us at that time, who we were as Italian Americans, kind of, you know, trying to pull out of the neighborhood. And at the same time, you're stuck in the neighborhood. And then, you know, you want to get out, but you're defending it. And you love everything you love about it. You also hate it. You also hate, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so nobody understands what you're talking about. You want to be an artist, you know, and you know, I mean, I could tell you stories about, but anyway, that movie really spoke to me. And that's when I think, I don't know how old I was. That movie was like 73, maybe 1973. So I was 17 years old when I saw that, 18, whatever it was. That one kind of kicked me in the ass a little bit to write, you know?
Wow. For me, it was, when I was 11 years old, a little boy coming home from the park in Brooklyn, all of a sudden I walked down my block and there was all these cameras and trucks and whatever. Universal Pictures were parked on my block. They took over a bungalow. They created all these interior sets. And when they were filming a movie called Nunzio, and Nunzio was with David Proval.
Right.
David
That's
Proval,
he was like a special needs kind of guy.
he was, special needs. He thought he was Superman, the whole thing, whatever. Long story short, I'm a little kid. I run down the street and I run up to Morgana King, who played Marlon Brando's wife in The Godfather. And I said, what's going on here? She goes, we're making a movie. I go, how do you get in a movie? I want to be in a movie. So she shows me a picture and a resume. And I run home and I took a Polaroid picture of myself. I wrote some stuff down on a piece of loose leaf paper, ran down the street. I handed her my picture and resume. And she, you know, she laughed. She got a kick out of it. She gave it to the director. The director said, you go home, kid, you know, get your parents. We're going to stick you in a movie. So I ran home. Ma, they're going to stick me in a movie. She's like, you stay in the house. You don't know what kind of movie they're making down there. Long story short, I run down the street. I go, listen, my mother doesn't believe you. You got it. So I dragged the director to the house.
God, that's great.
So I say, tell he says, we're Universal Pictures, we're going to pay your son, right? So my mother says, you're going to pay him, take him, you know. So I went. So now I'm background, you know. They needed some kids for the neighborhood, some atmosphere. And I show up to the set, and there was a young actor by the name of Glenn Scarpelli, and he had a speaking role in the film. And I was 11, and he was 11, and we looked identical, like you couldn't tell us apart. So the day I show up, he's not filming that day. So when I show up to the set, everybody thinks I'm him, and they give me the chair, they powder my nose, all the extras over there. I'm playing along. They're calling me Glenn. I'm like, yeah. So I'm playing along. Great. And that's when I got bit by the bug, right? So, you know, I spent a couple of days on it, but it was like my film school. I watched them film on my block for a month. I followed them to all the locations and everything. And I really watched this actor, David Proval. And I was like, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to be an actor. And then shortly after, they were filming Saturday Night Fever in my neighborhood, and I stayed up to 4 o'clock in the morning watching the scene when they crash into the Barracuda Club and there's a fight, and the whole thing stunned to the wee hours in the morning. It was magical. Travolta coming out of his trailer, you know, screaming girls because Vinnie Barbarino's in town, and you know, he gave me his autograph. And I said to myself, at that point, I'm 12. I'm going to do this. You know, I want to be an actor. But everybody I told my dream to, you know, kind of shit on it. Like, you know, there was a guy who gave my mother his business card, and he said, hey, you know, I can help your son. Give me a call, right? And I begged my mom, call him up. And she never called him. But, you know, she was a Brooklyn streetwise mother. She knew that.
Listen, I get it. You know, look, I made a movie about this, and you know, it's really funny. The movie, a lot of critics attacked the movie because they didn't believe how strict those households could be, and how, and by the way, I say this lovingly. I don't say this with any animus in my heart whatsoever. But I made a movie with Armin Mueller-Stahl and Ray Liotta.
Local Color.
Yeah, and that was really me as a kid.
That's a beautiful film.
Thank you very much. And that was really me as a kid. And Ray Liotta knew my father. May he
Wow.
rest in peace, both of them. You
Yeah.
know,
Rest
Ray
in
knew
peace.
my dad, so my dad was so homophobic that me holding a brush already freaked him out. Okay, like trying to paint, you know, he was just, what the fuck is this kid doing? And he, you know, and then when the old painter who was like 80 years old said, "You want to go to Vermont with me for the summer to paint?" My father was like, "You ain't going into the woods with some old guy." You know, I mean, I'm like, "Dad, this is the opportunity of a lifetime." And he's like, "Yeah," he didn't want to hear it. And we got in a big fight about it, me and my old man. He just, "No, you're coming to work for me. You're working at the club. You're not traipsing into the woods, you know, with your paint box and some old guy. You know, that ain't happening." He didn't want to hear it. And I finally was like, "Fuck you, I'm going." And I left.
Wow.
And I thought I was gone all summer. And I thought he wasn't gonna, you know, I didn't know what to expect when I came home. Was I moving out? You know, but he was cool with it. You know, I think he
Yeah.
dealt with it.
But, you know, but didn't you call that artist? Didn't you track down that
That was
artist?
another thing. I knocked on that guy's door. That was very similar to what happened in the movie.
Yeah.
He
So
wrote a book. He wrote an art book that I read, and there was an old. I mean, there was an old framer, a guy named Aurelio Yamarino, a real paisan, and he was the framer in town. And so I made these shitty little paintings I was so proud of, and he framed them for me, you know. And the one that Charles Durning played in the movie. So he introduced me to. He's the one that told me that the painter, whose real name was Cherepov, lived locally. So I went and knocked on his door, and he didn't want to have anything to do with me. He should get lost. But then I went back to Yamarino, and I said, "Hey," I said, "this guy, he threw me out of there." And he goes, "Well, he's an old bastard. He don't want to hear from you." I said, "Can I bring him a gift?" He goes, "Well, he's Russian. Bring him a bottle of vodka." So I went and I got some, you know, really, again, now I'm, you know, I took a few dollars from my old man. He did not know it. And I went to the liquor store and I bullshit my way into buying a bottle of vodka. And then I went to the guy's door and I knocked on the door and I gave him a bottle of vodka. And what's in the movie is true. He snatched it and closed the door. But then he opened the door and he goes, "I'm just kidding. Come on in." So then I got to know him and he started showing me his paintings. And I said, "You got to teach me how to paint." And he'd sort of turned his back on it. And I mean, I understand why, you know, I mean, he poured his guts into those canvases and at one time they were worth a lot of money, but the whole world of art had shifted. It shifted in the 70s, especially. If you painted realistically, you were considered a hack. You know what I mean? It was all abstract, you know, wipe your ass with a curtain. You know, that's great. That's a great statement. But if, God forbid, you paint something that you paint a child's face that makes you want to cry when you look at it, you know, you're a hack, which is all that critic bullshit, you know, where they literally almost destroyed the world of art, as far as I'm concerned. You know, but now it's made this big resurgence and comeback, not to the point where it should be, but there are, you know, but anyway, yeah, a lot of that was all based on reality.
Wow. I mean, if people haven't seen Local Color, it's such a personal film. I mean, it is your life story. I think you put your own money up for that too, right?
Yeah, I put the house up to make it because I kept.
Yeah, it's a passion project.
It was a passion project, and I raised some money. A friend of mine, Jimmy Evangelitis, and we raised a bunch of money, but we still needed like $400,000-$500,000 to complete it. So that's what we did. I put up my house to make it. Listen, man, you know, like Julie, my wife, who encouraged me to put up the house. I mean, I've got the greatest wife in the world. We've been together 38 years.
That's amazing.
You know, she's like, "You got to do it. You got to do it." She says, "Because we're both going to be gone one day and this movie's going to be left behind. And you can inspire people 100 years from now." So she's always been, "Just go for it. Just go. Stop fucking talking about it. Just do it. Just do it." She's always, God bless her. She's throw the dice. Let's go.
Love that.
Yeah.
I have the same kind of wife. I've been with my wife 25 years and she's so supportive. You know, I went to New York for 2 years to produce a film and she was like, "I believe in you, go." You know?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like Julie, she, you know, you have to have a partner like that, you know?
What's the secret? 38 years.
Oh, I don't know. It's not like every 30, it's not like all 38 years, if you line them up, were bliss. You know, I mean, I'd say like the first 10 were good, and then it drops off a little, and then it comes back, and then it drops off. Then you realize you're just marking time. Then you want to kill each other. Then you're back madly in love with each other. It's really how you handle tougher times than good times, because
Mm,
any idiot can hang around with you when things are good. It's when
yeah.
things start to really come apart, and they do. If you're in the movie business, you're on top for 2 years, you're in the shitter 2 years later, then you're back. And sometimes you ask yourself, I was on fire 3 years ago. Whose cosmic dick did I step on that I suddenly can't get a job? It's like, what happened? And it's who your partner is at that moment that keeps you together.
Yeah.
So we've been together forever.
It's beautiful. So,
Thanks.
you know what I'm hearing in your journey is there were a lot of big moves that you made. I mean, like, we're going through the phone book, finding that cinematographer, reaching out to this, this painter, looking to be taught by him. It's just, those are big moves. Those are big, bold moves to reach out. And you really had to, overcome your fear of, like calling that person up or, being rejected. So, it's pretty amazing.
If I can impart any advice, is so what? They throw you out. So what? You're really no worse off than you were 5 minutes before you went in there. So they tell you to get lost. I mean, you were a loser going in, you're a loser leaving. It's not like it wasn't like you were a winner walking in and you walked out a loser. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're the same guy, same woman, same whatever, walking in as you are walking out. Yeah, but the chances of winning increase every time you take a shot. It's like you throw the dice a million times, and one time you throw a 7. But the thing is, I got to tell you, and I've learned this from a lot of the older guys, they used to say this: you only have to connect once or twice to have a
Mm.
career in show business. You don't have to connect 1,000 times. As a painter, you only need one gallery to really believe in you. If they believe in you, suddenly you build a career. It's the same thing like you make some allies in the film business. And you only need one or two folks to believe in you, and you can turn everything around.
Yeah.
So, but you might have to meet 10,000 people to get there. So what? You get rejected. Big deal.
Well, I got to tell you, I honestly, when I found your phone number and it literally hit my desk and I saw this and I go, wow, this number is like 30 years ago. A little fear came in. Like, if I call him, what's he going to say? Like, how'd you get my number? What the fuck are you doing? Calling me?
I never understood that shit.
But that's the thought, the fearful thought that popped into my brain, and I was like, shut up.
Yeah,
what's the worst thing you can do?
Have to
take a walk. What's the worst thing that can happen is you can say no. Okay, I give it a shot.
I gave you my number 30 years ago. You were supposed to call me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I give out my number, I have to expect someone's going to call. So it's not like, and I never understood that people acting like, oh, get away from me stuff. It's like, I wouldn't be anywhere without people giving me breaks and taking chances, so anyway, this whole business is based on trust anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Like when I was at 20th Century Fox, I told Joe Roth I really thought I could direct a movie, 29th Street, which was the first film I directed. And
a wonderful film. If the audiences, if you have not seen 29th Street, it's a beautiful film. I mean, it's Joe Pesci's true story, right?
Frank Pesci.
Frank Pesci. Yeah, Frank Pesci. Yeah, I heard. Yeah. So, Frank Pesci was a great guy. It's a true story. You wrote a film based on it, and it was such a beautiful film. It had Danny Aiello and
Anthony LaPaglia. Yeah. Lainey Kazan, Robert Forster.
Such a beautiful film.
Thanks. But I mean, look, same thing, I'll tell you, that's another one. It's like, Joe Roth wanted to meet with writers. He wanted to give them a shot at directing. So I figured, well, I could tell you another story about directing, about taking chances. I don't know if it's interesting or not. But the thing with Joe Roth, I just went in there and I said, look, this is how I see the movie and blah, blah, blah. And he gave me a shot.
So 29th Street was the first film you directed?
Yeah, that was right after Midnight Run.
Okay, so I just out of curiosity, you wrote Wise Guys, you had an amazing director, directing it. How is it for you as a writer, like to have to step back and then have somebody else take your baby and direct it?
I don't really remember, to be honest with you. I was just happy they were getting made. I was always shocked at how different it was in my head than the way it got interpreted. Midnight Run, I was on the set every day, so it was much different. Marty wanted me there because he wanted me there and he wanted me watching, which with me it was perfect because I wanted to be a director and a writer. So I just absorbed everything, and then every once in a while he'd say, give me a joke, and I'd come up with something off the top of my head. And that's how I got to know De Niro very well. Because
can we talk about Bobby for a second?
Sure, you talk about him all you want.
Yeah. So yeah, before you wrote Midnight Run, right? Were you a taxi driver, Mean Streets, Raging Bull, Deer Hunter? Were you a fan of his work?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So was he like somebody looked up to? I mean, I know for me, listen, I'm a Pacino, De Niro, Brando. Those were my idols growing up. I'd seen all those early Serpicos and Dog Day Afternoons. I mean, those are the ones that inspired me.
Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, I think I've maybe watched them both 50 times. That's not an exaggeration.
I mean, go back to Mean Streets, I was in that theater and there was David Proval in Mean Street. He played the bar owner. And I was like, wait a second, that's the same guy who played Nunzio. And I really got like, here's a completely different character. And I was in awe of his character and De Niro and all of that. And that's when I said, this is what I want to do.
Yeah,
I mean, in that movie theater, I was like, this guy can be that guy and then be that guy. I knew I wanted to be an actor at that point. So working with Robert De Niro, which you looked up to, and here you are now. You wrote a film, and De Niro's the star of it. How does that?
Well, I mean, again, look, I said, you're making me think of things I haven't thought of in years. But I remember. Again, I remember Marty Brest. I thought he was going to hit me and knock me off the fucking chair. I remember when we heard that De Niro wanted to do the movie, and he'd never done really a comedy before, but the whole thing that Marty and I always talked about was that Midnight Run is very, very funny, but it's not comedy in the way that like people are acting stupid, It's played totally straight, which makes it even funnier, so that was always the thing we were saying. So it was the situations that were funny, the fact that, he had such a short fuse, the character, the De Niro, he would just blow up, but I remember when De Niro, I met him for the first time, and we were in his office, Marty's office. He came in and we were sitting around chatting, and Marty was behind his desk and Bob was sitting in this big leather chair and I was sitting in this chair. We were talking like this, but shit just comes out of my mouth. I don't think so. And I said to him, hey, I got to ask you a question. And he said, yeah, what? I said, why do you want to do this? And I looked over at Marty, and Marty was like, are you fucking crazy? And I'm like, no, I just gotta know, like what? And he just said, no. He goes, I really like this character, and I like the way he's very, very angry all the time, but he's got a big heart. This guy, he's broken, and on the trip he gets fixed, and he goes, and that's what I like about him. And he goes, it's very clear to me who this guy is. And I said, okay, great. And then Marty was like, what's the matter with you after Bob left, I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think, but I got to know Bob very, very well. And we then, we would stay in and out of touch, but I did a lot of work. I didn't get credit for it, but I did a lot of work on Analyze This. I wrote a lot of jokes for that movie. I sat down with Bob, and this is before Harold Ramis got involved as the director. But Bob would say, because I need some jokes. Just give me that stupid shit you write. And I went, okay. And I wrote, some jokes.
I got a Bobby story for you.
Okay.
So, young actor, I did Pretty Woman, Gary Marshall, Penny Marshall's doing Awakenings. I audition, I'm in Palm Springs. I got a call from my agent. They want to screen test you for Awakenings with Bobby De Niro. I'm in Palm Springs. I jump in my car, drive back to LA, 100 miles an hour. I'm gonna screen test with Robert De Niro. Yeah. So I get to, I think it was Columbia. I show up on the lot. It's a Sunday. I get there and I'm looking for, Travis Bickle, or I'm looking for Jake LaMotta. And I walk into the room and I get Leonard. I don't know if you remember, he's like just very,
yeah.
Yeah. So, he's already like in character. He's like this shy, quiet, and I'm like, who, where's Robert De Niro? And there he is, and then Penny Marshall, she's directing, and it was screen testing, and I'm playing this cab driver that when he's sick, he's trying to get him out of, he's in a bad neighborhood, and, he, let me take you home, whatever the scene was. And so we're doing the scene, and, De Niro, I go to pick him up in the scene, and he lays there like dead weight, and he makes me struggle to pick him up. I mean, that's what a giving friggin' actor, that little moment, him just making me struggle. All of a sudden, everything became so real in that moment.
No,
and
he's so smart. Yeah.
I literally, go ahead.
No, I'm not an actor, okay? And I never wanted to be an actor, but he wanted me to do a couple of lines in Midnight Run. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I ended up playing the cab driver at the end of the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you, a comedian? Get out of here, you bum. Yeah, I had the second to the last line of the movie, but you don't see my face. But Bob kept telling me, you're funny. You're naturally funny. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I said, but most of my comedy comes out of nervousness and discomfort. And so I say something that to soften my own discomfort, but I don't know. I can't manufacture it. I don't know how to be funny, So he said, I want to read some lines with you. And this is the only time I ever read lines with anyone. And it was him.
Wow.
So he starts throwing stuff at me. And I was talking back, and I had the most bizarre experience. I've never talked to him about this, but it was almost like a bizarre kind of magnetism that he drew something out of me. I can't describe it. It became, and I'm not into that. I'm not into that shit,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when actors talk about other actors and they start doing this, and oh, shut the fuck up, But he definitely had some ability to look you in the eye and make you forget where you were and pull you into what you were doing. And I felt it. I definitely felt it. I mean, the guy really is fucking remarkable.
Yeah, that's what he did to me. I mean, he pulled me into the scene in that little moment. And then I literally, he laid there dead weight. I picked him up and I put him on my shoulder and I started improvising. Come on, baby, I'm going to get you home. And I'm doing the whole thing. And then finally Penny Marshall yells cut. And I put De Niro down very gingerly. And he looks at me, he goes, that was good. That was good. And that was it. For me, I literally floated out of that friggin' casting office because, I grew up watching him and here I am working with him. So for you, you say, you're not an actor, but, as a director, did you ever study the craft of acting? I mean, how do you know? There's so many different styles, method acting. I know De Niro's a method actor. How do you work with actors? How'd you learn to work with actors?
It's really funny. I have I'm very sort of instinctive. And all I do is I look at and look, part of my job of being a director is, boy, this is a long-winded, I don't want to put your audience to sleep. I wear several hats as a director. It's because I'm not a dictator as a director. I think that's just a mistake. I like to see what the actors are doing. I know, okay, this boy, I know what I would like it to be like, but a lot of times when actors start doing stuff, it changes it. And they find humanity in things that I didn't know were human. So as far as being a director, I just really watch.
Mm.
And I don't watch, and all I ask myself is, am I believing it? That's all I ask myself. Because if I believe it, and I with no, it's in a funny way, directing is not like, in my opinion, the best movies. It's not like being a dictator. It's like, I want it this way and it's gonna be this, I just let it happen. I just let it happen and I watch it. And all I'm very aware of is, as a storyteller, that they're the words, blah, 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 and then there's the deeper meaning, even if it's a ridiculous comedy, the deeper meaning of what the scene is about. And you could change every word in a script, but the thrust of it, what's underneath it, has to stay intact. When that goes, then you don't have anything anymore. But I know that the point of this scene is, this person is trying to put one over on that person, and they don't succeed, but they break through a little bit, okay? Because later on, they try it again, and they don't succeed. And the third time, they try it again, and they break through finally, because that person now trusts them enough. That's the point of these three scenes. So, however it gets there, that's all I ultimately care about. I'm not a director that has to hear his dialogue exactly the way it was written, in a very masturbatory kind of way, although it's funny, and I'm not just saying this, De Niro has said to me he loves the way I write dialogue, because he said it always comes off very real. And he likes the rhythms. And I don't do a lot of rewriting of my dialogue, because I find the more you rewrite the dialogue, the more it's your head and not your heart. I write very reactionary. If I know one guy's in a good mood and another guy's not in a good mood, and the scene starts out with "Good morning," oh yeah, what's so fucking good about it? If that's the response, I'll just take it off from there to see where it goes. And if I keep thinking, well, is there a funnier response, or is it, then I find it's getting a little too bullshitty. It's getting a little too, aren't I the writer? Aren't I clever? As opposed to it becomes less and less real. So I tend to try to leave the dialogue alone, unless, I read through it and I go, it could be stronger in here. It's a lot like music. I'm also a musician. It's like hitting highs and lows. And here you want to go minor instead of major, or something like that, but I hope I'm not going all over the place. I just try to make it as believable as possible. I mean, look, sometimes you write things that are clearly jokes and setups for jokes, like the opening of Comeback Trail. That was definitely acted and spoken as written, because it's just utterly ridiculous. It's these two movie producers. One of them is Robert De Niro. It takes place in the 1970s. He's a grindhouse movie producer. He makes the worst fucking movies in the world. And they're at the first day of Killer Nuns has premiered, and and these nuns and priests are picketing out in front of the movie theater, and they're talking about those picket lines, and the dialogue in that scene is definitely set up, payoff, set up. He says, "This first time I've ever seen such a long line going down in front of one of our films." And then Zach Braff says, "It's a picket line," and he goes, "Well, I know that, but I'm just, did you know that you know, when they first premiered The Rite of Spring, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring at the Champs-Elysees in Paris in 1893, that a fist fight literally broke out amongst the patrons. I mean, it was all set up to show that De Niro is just an optimist. No matter, you could punch him in the face and, oh, I needed that. He's just this optimistic guy. That's who he is. And, you know, and it's, what's our motto? What's our motto? What do we call it? Miracle Motion Pictures. And what do we say? If it's good, it's a miracle. I mean, so it's all this stupid setup shit, you know? So, but anyway, so that movie, they followed the dialogue somewhat, but anyway.
I can't wait to see it. I've been waiting for it. You know, I know the release date.
Sorry. Yeah. It's very much, you know, it's funny. People, I've shown it now I'll show it to you anytime you want to see. In fact, you know, there's going to be, I'm going to screen it at a friend's house. If you want to come to that screening, I'd love to have you.
Love to come.
It is very much a throwback to the 1970s style of making movies.
Love it.
It's very kind of loosey-goosey. You know, I watched a lot of Arthur Hiller movies before I made it. Arthur Hiller directed a great comedy called The In-Laws. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk. And Arthur, I knew Arthur really well. And he had a way of just allowing it to happen. And he wasn't afraid of the dead spaces, what one person might call today a dead space, a silence. You know, he played those silences very well. He allowed the actors to play them. And I love them in movies. I know today, everything's got to be boom, 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 boom. But I just said, fuck it. I'm not making this movie that way. That time had not happened yet. You know, this is 1974 when the movie starts. And I said, look, they dress like 74. They talk like 74. Stylistically, the movie's like 1974. It's not in a big fucking hurry. There's not a million different camera angles of a guy drinking a cup of coffee. You know, it's not that nervous kind of, which a lot of that grew out of MTV, you know, a lot of TV commercial directors became directors where literally, you know, there's like 64 angles of a person getting out of bed. They get out of bed, the feet touches the floor, they creak to that, they put it, it's just, all right, I get, he's getting out of bed. I don't need 64 setups to see this, you know.
Working with De Niro, working with Morgan Freeman, working with Tommy Lee Jones in that film, you know, do they have different styles of acting or their approach to the
It's very, very interesting that you would ask that. De Niro, well, they were all totally prepared. You know, each guy was totally prepared. Morgan doesn't like doing more than one or two takes. You ask for a second take, he wants to know why. Really? And you can't say to Morgan Freeman, I want to try something. He's like, fuck that shit. You know, he's like, because he brings it. Yeah. He really brings it.
He brings it on the first take.
First take, he nailed it. Yeah, always. And yeah, well, those guys are like theater trained too. You don't get a second take on the stage, you know, they bring it. And Bob, you know, he brought it too, because that was Morgan's energy. The interesting thing for me was, I never said this out loud before, Bob likes to play with it a little bit. You know, if he sees a moment, he'll try it. Tommy Lee Jones is incredibly methodical. Okay, like to the point where he will say to you, do you mind if I pick up the pencil on that line? And I'm like, no, just do whatever feels right. Okay, because I'm thinking I'm going to pick up the pencil, then I'm going to put it over here, and then I'm going to say so-and-so, and on that, I'm going to look this way, then I'm going to come back. And then I'm waiting for Bob to say his line, and then I'm going to get the pencil on. He's so methodical. And Bob's like the opposite. Bob's like, yeah, let's shoot it. Let's see where it goes. You know, so I never said to Bob, hey, Tommy Lee has got this thing all doped out a certain way. And, so I just figured, you know what? They're two old pros. They'll figure this shit out on their own. And if there's a little bit of this, so what?
Yeah.
I have the benefit of shooting it. So let's see where it goes. And they also liked each other a lot. So I think it helps. But I mean, I think there's a lot of fireworks in the movie. I love the movie. I'm very, very proud of it. It is incredibly silly. So I'm hoping that by today's standards, it's a lot of slapstick, but it's a lot of slapstick inside of a more real grounded story. But it is almost like the Coyote and the Roadrunner in a lot of ways. Do you know what the story is about?
It's about they're trying to whack the guy because they want to get the insurance money.
Yeah. De Niro can't make a good movie, so it's almost like the producers. So he decides he owes so much money to so many people, they're going to kill him. All of his movies fail. He's got his issues. He can't pay his rent. He lives in this house by the airport. The planes fly over the house. Everything in the house shakes every time because he lives right by the runway. So he's really at the end of his rope. He's not a bad guy. He's just desperate. But Morgan Freeman is this gangster that's been financing these shitty movies. And behind Zach Braff, who does a great job. Zach Braff plays De Niro's nephew, who's totally in the dark. They hatch this scheme that they're going to heavily insure an actor, and they're going to kill him in a stunt to collect all the insurance money. So they go to the old actors home and they find Tommy Lee Jones, who was a great Western star like 40 years ago, but now he's suicidal and he's drunk by 10 o'clock in the morning. He's got a 6-shooter in his mouth when they first meet him. They go, oh, he's perfect. He wants to die. But what they don't count on is they give him the will to live again, because he's an actor that nobody's paid attention to for 40 years. So he suddenly becomes like this young guy again. He becomes this heroic Western, and they can't fucking kill him. And they set fire to him. They throw him down this bottomless canyon, and they start accidentally making a hit movie because they're shooting all of it. For the insurance stuff, they got to be making the movie. It's really funny.
I can't wait.
Film festivals with it, and it scored. We had a screening of it in Toronto. It scored great. So I'm very proud of the movie.
Listen, there's so many films, so many classic movies that you made. It's amazing. I can't wait to see this one.
Thank you very much.
So if you could give some advice to an aspiring writer, or director, or actor, what would that advice be?
I would say to commit to something like this, it's really funny. I don't even think sometimes you have to be that great. I mean, I think to be successful, you have to want it more than anything in the world, but in order to be truly great, you've got to focus on it. Yeah. But I don't think you can tell someone to be great. I think you could tell someone to be more serious about it, or to be more open to it. But I think whatever greatness, whatever the hell that is, I think that's a combination of a lot of things. I think that's a combination of, ultimately, I think the artist is curious. A real artist is curious. A real artist is always willing to take chances. You're willing to fail. You have to be willing to fail, because you are going to fail endlessly. If you're doing it right, you're going to fail. It's kind of where we started. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. You're going to fall down, and you can't quit. You can't quit. It's like anything in life. You just have to get up, and you learn something from that failure. So it's not like if you fail a couple of times and you quit, it wasn't meant for you. You have to just keep going. Look, if I was being a director right now, it was much more difficult in a way for me than it is for people today, in that you couldn't just go make a movie. Like where now you can make movies on your cell phones. You could cut movies on your computer at home. I mean, it's like, when I was starting out, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, when I started out, just to get your hands on a 16mm camera and an editing system, and then you needed a sound guy, and then you needed a mixer, and you needed a lot of people just to make a piece of shit. You needed 40, 50 grand, something god awful. Today, you've got cell phones that shoot beautiful images, and you could color correct everything, and the whole production side has gotten easier, so you can show people what you're capable of doing easier today than when I was starting out. I mean, when I directed my first movie for Fox, I mean, to think about, my first movie I directed was for 20th Century Fox. I just had to basically bullshit them. There was nothing they could see that I had done. I didn't show them those Super 8 movies I did. I bullshit them that I could do it. I believed I could. It wasn't like I was totally lying. I mean, in the end, did I really 100% know? No. But I felt if you dropped me in the right spot, I could do it, and I saw it in my head. And I'm also practical in that, well, if it doesn't go my way, then there's another way to rethink it, a lot of directing, real directing, is just troubleshooting, because there's a whole practical element to directing, which is you get a location and you got to be out of there today. That's it. So whatever you're going to do, you better figure it out in the next 8 hours and shoot it and get out of there, and if not, you're going to get a call from somebody saying, what the hell happened in there? And then whether or not you're coming back the next day is in question, So once you get that all straight in your head, you go, okay, fuck, I got to do this now. Okay, so put the camera here, this, that, and this. You block out the scene, blah, blah. I always follow the actors. I know what I want the movie to feel like, but I also don't want the actors to start doing a lot of, artificial stuff because I think it's going to look good, So I let the actors play. Where do they want to go? And then I figure out how to shoot it based on that. But I have a look, certainly, that I've worked out with the cinematographer well in advance, that like I did a movie, Middlemen. I don't know if you ever saw that. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
With Middlemen, it was about the porn business, about cocaine, the beginning of the internet, Russian mafia guys. A lot of that was true. And I said, and I met all the people that it happened to. These people are fucking nuts, So I said to the cameraman, Lucas Etlin, I said, you know what? If they step in the dark, fuck it. If they leave frame, fuck it. I said, just chase them, because these people don't know whether to shit or go blind anyway. They're all over the place. So let's shoot it all over the place. They cross an eye line, so be it. They cross an eye line, fuck it. So that became the visual language of that movie, and it was sort of disciplined, undisciplined. They were undisciplined as people, because I spent a lot of time with those folks, interviewing them. They were all over the map. So I figured, you know what? If I try to stick them in a stagey environment, it's going to come off like bullshit. So that was the approach to that movie. Each movie, I try to figure out well in advance what's the underlying theme of the movie. What's the like for Middlemen, it was because I always try to find, it's a 120-page script, and all of this stuff happens, but what's the movie really about? Each one, to me, Midnight Run was about redemption. That's all that movie was about. Yes, it goes cross country. Yes, this happens, that happens. It was about the redemption of Robert De Niro's character and his letting down his guard finally and trusting this other guy that he grows to love over the course of that trip. With Middlemen, it was just about a guy trying to find his way home. To me, that was the whole movie. If you look at the movie, he starts out, he walks out the door of his house, and then the whole movie's a flashback. And at the end, he walks back in, his wife allows him to come back because she forgives him for all the horrible shit that he did. So the whole movie to me was like a big circle. He just wants to get back in the door. That's all he wants. He wants a second shot with his wife and family. So I go, oh, well, now it gets easier. You know, it's like, that's what the movie is. If that's what the movie is, then you start making decisions and choices based on that. They inform how it looks. They inform the lighting, you know, what's important in the story, what's not necessary. With acting, look, when you say, what would I say to young actors? I don't know. I'm not an actor.
Well, I think he's just said it. We
Stay
have
honest, you know.
Yeah, they have a phone in their pocket that can create their own stuff. They don't have to wait for anybody.
They should. And I would say a lot of times, as for actors, it'd be great to be writers too, and create your own content. Because look, I wanted to be a movie director before I wanted to be a writer, you know. And then so someone said to me, well, you got to be a writer first. I went, oh, I learned how to write. You know, so the one thing, a writer has a leg up over an actor in that if you write something, they have to deal with you. You know, with an actor, no matter how good you are, there's a lot of people coming in to read for that part. So you are a little bit up to the whims of other people. You know, a stupid casting director doesn't get what you're doing. A director's not paying attention. You know, sometimes you're the director and you sit there, and I'm not a big believer in 50, 60 people coming to read, to be honest with you too. A lot of times I say, well, who's right for this? Out of all my friends, I start calling people up, because I don't really like the process, to be honest with you. I mean, I've done it where you like meet 60 people in one day and you don't even remember in the end. Plus I don't know if you know Philip Noyce. Philip Noyce. Am I talking too much? I'm so sorry.
No.
Philip Noyce, the director, said to me once, he goes, you're too nice a guy to be a movie director. You have to be an asshole. I said, yeah, I'm not that guy. You know, but I also, when actors come in, I just see these people and like, they break my heart. They're like, I've been in this spot a million times. You're coming in to pitch a story. They're coming in to pitch themselves. They've been working on this scene. They want to get it right. Suddenly their life is in my hands. I don't like that fucking responsibility, man. You know, and what if they come in and they're great, but they have a bad moment and they blow it, and they walk around the rest of the week going, oh, I did it so much better at home, and blah, 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 blah. I hate that shit. I hate being in that spot. Oh, I thought of another interesting director thing. So that's why writing, I think, if you're an actor, I would learn how to write. Write yourself a 1-act play, a 2-act play, write something that you could shine. And look what Chaz Palminteri did.
Sure.
There's a lot of people, that write something for yourself.
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester
Stallone. Yeah.
He wrote a little movie called Rocky. That changed his life. Yeah. Sidney Pollack, who was a terrific director, who I think sometimes doesn't get enough credit as to how good he really was. Sidney Pollack did Jeremiah Johnson, 3 Days of the Condor. I mean, amazing movies. The Way We Were. Excuse me. When I was getting ready to direct 29th Street, and I knew him, I got to know him, I really respected him. I called him up and I said, do you have any advice for me? I'm going to direct my first movie. And he goes, yeah, let's go out to lunch. So we went out to lunch and we're eating, and he says to me, I'm going to give you 2 things. I want you to remember them. I went, okay. And he says, get really good shoes. I went, shoes? What the fuck? He says, your feet are going to kill you. So I was like, he does, by day 2, I was like, I had to get all that special shit, And the second thing he said, this is the good one. He said, let the movie tell you what it wants to be. And I went, huh. He said, now studios don't like hearing that because they want you to shoot the screenplay. He says, but you can't just shoot the screenplay because you're going to be dealing with actors, and actors are going to bring their lives to it and their humanity to it and everything they learned to it and who they are to it. And I don't care if they follow that scene word for word. It's going to change. Something's going to happen, and it's going to get better sometimes. And when it starts to get better, that's the movie you have to chase. Because if somebody says something funny or very human and you go, oh, that's a beautiful moment. He said, don't go, yeah, but that wasn't meant. Don't get into all of that shit. You got to be able to chase what the movie wants to be. It's very funny. It's the same thing as, was it Da Vinci that said that when they asked him how did he carve all these things out of stone, he said it was already there. I just shaved all the pieces.
Yeah, it's Michelangelo.
Was it Michelangelo?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the same thing. It's like, allow it to be.
Yeah. It's there. It's there.
It's already there. Let it be. Let it breathe. You know, and don't be afraid to chase those moments.
Yeah, and it's a collaboration. I mean, you have all these amazing artists, and you know, to be a director that just says it's my way or the highway, or you know, even if a grip has a funny line, and you know, if it's funny and it makes the story work, then why not? You know,
dude, I watch the best directors on earth work, and I made a point of sitting there and just watching quietly. And the great ones hardly say shit, if you ever noticed. You know, and the other thing about being a director is like giving somebody a line reading. You know, like I was watching a scene happened on the last movie, and I was watching it. I'm like, this is feeling really, really stilted to me. You know, now I don't want to tell people, you know, you need to be more emotional. That's like the worst fucking direction you can give. And I was watching and I said, you know what? It's going too fast. I said, they're not listening. That's what I said to myself. They're not listening. I said, I need them to slow down, because the second I tell them to slow down, they're going to start feeling everything that they're saying. It's like a person going, trying to, you ever like, you know, when a person doesn't want to take any responsibility for something, they start talking very, very quick. Like, maybe if I say enough words, I can fool this person. You know, so I told them, I said, guys, I want you to do the scene at half pace. They're like, well, just slow the fuck down. And the scene was perfect. They did it. They were really listening. But I didn't say you guys aren't listening, because to me, that's not smart directing.
No.
You got to figure out what you want, and you got to find a very succinct way to get it without saying it, you know?
Sure. Yeah, you want actors to not get in their heads. You want them to be free. And in a direction like that, they can be free to play. And I think that's the secret, is to be in play and having fun when you're acting. You know, when you're having fun, when you're in your head, you're dead. You know, I say when you're in your heart, you're smart. When you come from play and you're having fun, it's going to show. The audience, the people, the casting directors, they're going to feel it, because it's coming from your heart and play.
I'll tell you one other thing. There was an actor, very quickly, this is the only time that I can remember where I did something that I didn't like myself for doing. But there was an actor, who was a woman, I don't want to give away who it is, who came and auditioned and gave the best audition maybe that I ever saw. It was brilliant. And I knew when we came to shooting that scene, that person was going to try to recreate what they did in the audition, because they just, for whatever reason, Saturn was over here, you know, the moon was over here, the tides, blah, 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 and they nailed it. Okay. So now we come to shoot that scene. We started around 10 o'clock at night, and I could see this poor girl. She was struggling and struggling and thinking and thinking and struggling and thinking. And I don't shoot a lot of takes. I'm not that guy. I shoot 2 takes maybe. So then 2 takes, 3 takes, 4 takes. And in the scene, she's supposed to have a breakdown, but she was thinking a breakdown. She wasn't, you know. So finally I said to myself, I hate myself, but I'm going to have to wear her out. I'm going to have to break her a little bit. So I shot 10, 11, 12 takes until finally she said, I don't know what to do anymore. And I said, now do it. And she was genius.
Because it was
she
real.
emptied out every filter, everything she had. And at that moment, she was ready.
That's when you catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Love that. So I have to jump off and teach a class. This is my real school in the background. It's not a green
God
screen.
bless you.
You know, I opened it up 8 years ago, so I have a 2:00 class. But
Okay.
I just wanted to thank you, George. You know,
Oh, no,
really
my pleasure.
from the bottom of my heart. I mean, so I know you're a busy man, and it means a lot to me that you took the time to share your wisdom and knowledge on the podcast. And it's so great to see you and reconnect.
Same here. I'll do this anytime you want me to do it. If you ever want to come, where are you? Where are you?
My studio's here in Manhattan Beach. I'm at the beach. I'm in the South.
Okay, fine. Well, then I'd love to come see you sometime.
You should come to the studio.
I would love that. I would love that. And let's do something together. Let's work together.
I would love that. I'd love to see that screening. Let me know about the screening.
Yeah. That's in a couple, 3 weeks. I'll call you for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to write it down right here. All right. You got it. Okay.
Thank you, George.
You got it.
Take care.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless. Bye.
Bye-bye.